Hi guys, this is RN Tracy 2MD and welcome to another chit chat or like talk with me video. So I think I'm getting a little bit better with these. If you think that's true, please subscribe, hit like, or comment down below. Oh, I think my lip gloss is like stuck to my teeth. Anyways, so as you can see from the title, today I wanted to have a bit of a chit chat on professionalism versus respectability in healthcare. And so I have my handy paper. I have a couple papers actually, because today wow, actually, because today I did do a bit of research before I came and shot this video. And so I just didn't want to miss anything just because I did want to talk about this topic properly. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that I was consulting other information because we are now in med school. So we don't just talk completely off the dome, although sometimes I am just talking off the dome. It's really good to make sure that you're also consulting like scholarly resources. So people have done research on this stuff. So why not use some of the information that they've already gathered to make sure that whatever you're saying is backed up by something, right? So yeah, to get started though, I did want to do a bit of a hair check just because I had posted a couple video or a couple shorts where I was showing me doing my hair. So I'm sure like people are curious, like how did that turn out? So as you can see the front and then the side. So I did cut it, like I said, it was way too long. And so that is the back. Yeah, and then I have my cute little earrings as well. Every day I have something for like for winter. But yeah, so that's the update. Oh, I was gonna include the products that I used. Maybe I will like put in a clip somewhere. Like I'll have to that means I have to like edit this properly and like stop it and put something. Or maybe I'll do this. This is a picture of the hair that I used. So I ended up using 1.5 packs, or even like less than 1.5 packs, just because I had cut it. It went very far. So like I bought 3 packs because I hadn't done this style before, so I didn't know how much hair I was gonna need. And just so you know, it's synthetic hair. So yeah, so that's what I use. And then this is the braiding, I guess the braiding gel that I used. And this is the braiding gel I typically use. I just find that it helps me to have a good grip with my hair, especially since my hair is so short. If you saw in the video, like I was braiding really slowly, and I feel like you usually have to do that when you have shorter hair, just because it's hard to grip the hair. So if it looked like I was going slowly, it's true, I was going slow. But if my hair was longer, for instance, when I do my mom's hair, it's so much faster because I don't have to grip for every single time I'm braiding the hair. So just so you know, so this braiding gel really does help me. And of course, I am not sponsored. I'm nowhere near that big enough to be sponsored, I don't think. So this is just like things that like I genuinely like I find helpful to use when I'm braiding. And then the last thing, my edge control. So I'll show a picture of that here as well. It's the same edge control that I had in the previous video, like my first or my second vlog. This is just a different color. Also, just so you know, I don't know if I'm getting like a little bit sick or something. Like I was definitely feeling sick this morning. I drank a whole bunch of tea, and like got a lot of rest. I've been drinking like a lot of fluids. But if I have to like stop and like take a sip of water, like it's just because, yeah, my throat is really dry and it's not just because I talk too much. Okay, so that's it for like the hair check and everything. Let's get into the actual topic of this video, professionalism versus respectability. And so I was thinking about this just because this is always how like the topics come about. But I was like chatting with one of my friends, another one of my friends that's in nursing, and then we are talking about you know, there's those nursing TikToks, and then people getting fired from those TikToks, and then we also have a lot of day in the life. So the day in the lives, it's not just nursing or like healthcare specific. I think recently one that was like being talked about was a teacher that was filming themselves. So this is across the board. So this is a topic like everybody can relate to, but I'm going to keep it more healthcare focused just because I feel that I can talk on that the best. But yeah, that was the inspiration for this video, just from me talking with my friend about the whole topic of like healthcare workers. Specifically, we were talking about nurses, but we can keep it general and talk about healthcare workers, doing TikToks and all that kind of stuff. And what does it mean to be professional? And of course, now that I also have my own content that I put out there, I do think about, oh, is this professional? Is this something that is going to be an issue, cause an issue between myself and potential patients in the future, myself and potential colleagues? Is this something that I should be thinking about when I put it out there? And yes, of course, I'm thinking about that. And I might touch on this a bit later as well. But as far as the content that I do put out there, I do try to I try to include every aspect of myself. I don't want to I don't want to feel like I have to hide parts of myself in order to be considered professional. And I remember when I was applying to med school, like when I did my personal statement and all that, I really focused on the fact that I am a dynamic person. I have had so many different experiences before coming into medicine, whether that's in my my work life and my personal life. And I don't want to have to feel that like I'm removing any of those experiences or parts of myself from those experiences in order to fit myself into medicine. I don't think that that's necessary. And by me putting out these parts of myself on social media, it's kind of my way of trying to like get other people who are interested in medicine to realize that they don't have to fit a certain ideal in order to feel that they can be welcomed into medicine as well. Like I actually did genuinely, I mean, I'm probably gonna say actually a lot. I don't know what to do about it. I'm so sorry if it's something that bothers you. It does bother me as well. Anyways, um, so I even just lost track of what I was saying. Brain fart. I'll just edit this out. Oh yeah, I was talking about not leaving parts of myself out, and yeah, wanting other people to feel welcome. My goodness, yeah, that's going to be a long edit out. But yes, I used to think that there was parts of myself that didn't seem like somebody who would be in medicine. Like I just felt like my personality, it might be too bubbly, it might be too awkward. It's weird that like I'm a bubbly slash awkward person. Like if you've met me in real life, this is really true. Like I'm really awkward, but I'm also like really bubbly. So I'm just like, I don't know how that's gonna fit into medicine. Like I like to wear like color, even though I'm wearing black today, but I do typically like to wear color. I'm very animated, as you can see from the earrings and like the things I like to wear. You'll probably see throughout the videos that I do that I like to wear costumes. I like to dress up. So yeah, that's really like a huge part of my personality, So yeah, I'm very animated and I thought that maybe I'll have to tone that down when I go into medicine. And I'm still obviously figuring it out. Like I don't know. Um, but I don't want to lose those parts of myself in thinking that I have to do that in order to have the trust of my patients. So, yeah, that's kind of where I am right now. And that's kind of part of why I make my videos. And I just wanted to talk about that within this whole professionalism talk. So, while I do believe that we need standards in medicine just to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our patients, to make sure that we're keeping our patients safe. I don't want those standards to get in the way of us and our patients as well. And I'll explain a bit more about that as well, like a little bit later on. But I understand boundaries. I just don't want them to be something that end up being like a barrier between myself and the patient. So in Canada, we do refer to our Royal College, and our Royal College does provide with us some standards that we go by as doctors. And anytime that I am prepping with like for interviews with somebody who's wanting to prepare for interviews, I always bring up the CanMEDS rules. And I was fortunate enough to have somebody tell me about them when I was preparing for interviews, and it helped me out quite a bit. And just so you know, that interview video is still coming. I'm so sorry I haven't already put it out, but it's on its way. Definitely throughout this break, I'll have time to film that. But yes, CanMEDS roles. They're really important to know when you are going for your interview, and important to know in general as somebody who wants to practice medicine in Canada. So these are the CanMEDS roles. It includes medical expert, that's one role. Number two, communicator, collaborator, leader, healthcare or health advocate, scholar, professional, and it seems like a new one's been added on, as in patient safety and quality insurance. But the main thing that I'll be focusing on is the professional role, and what does that look like as according to the CanMEDS as well. So according to CanMEDS, what somebody who is professional within medicine includes is somebody who's trustworthy, somebody who is ethical in their relationships, somebody who is aware of their power. So there is a power imbalance within medicine. So that power awareness is really important. And then equity. So what it does not include is respectability. So we're not talking about assimilating. We're not talking about trying to follow like some kind of Eurocentric standards in order to be considered professional. And we're not policing how we dress and how we express ourselves out, especially when it's outside of the medical setting or like outside of something that directly influences patients' care. So yeah, I think that's something important to distinguish respectability from professionalism. I completely agree with having to be professional, but I think the reason I always put air quotes is because people conflate that with respectability, which is not the same thing at all. So I'm going on to my next paper. And so in order to support like some of my views, which I guess I shouldn't say it that way, I should just say I looked up articles that just address this topic, not specifically to support my views, but they kind of did end up supporting my views. And so there's one paper, and I'm going to link anything that I talk about. I will link it down below so that you can look at it for yourself. But there's one article that was done in 2025 called Beyond Appearance. So patient perspectives on the role of physician attire. And so this was a qualitative study, and they investigated, I think it was 3 different domains. So they investigated honesty and kindness, providing information, and appearance. And so they were trying to find out from the participants, which they had 120 participants who were patients, and they wanted to know how important were each of these domains to them and try to like rank it in terms of importance for them. And the results showed that for 81% of the participants, the most important factor was information. So information that was being provided. So whether that was like disclosing a diagnosis or talking about what was the next plan for that diagnosis, that was the most significant part for 81% of patients. 74% of patients found honesty to be like the second most important factor in the physician's role and how they saw the physician. And then finally, 40% of people still did find clothing, hygiene, and general appearance to be very important, but none of them ranked it as the most important factor to them. So yeah, I mean, yes, your appearance is going to be important. Like definitely, like people want you to be clean, but I don't think that there is I don't think people still want this stereotyped image of what was once considered professional for a doctor. And I'll get into that in the second article that I looked up. And in this second article, this was done in 2024, or the second study, and it's called Patient Perspectives Regarding Healthcare Professional Attire. And so this one was a questionnaire type of study where they asked 150 patients um, using photographs of doctors and healthcare workers in different types of attire. They use vignettes as well. And so they were trying to compare formal attire to healthcare workers in scrubs. And from this, they wanted to rate the perceived friendliness, professionalism, aptitude, and empathy. And so these are all the domains that they were asking the participants to rank based on the images that they were seeing. And in all domains, scrubs was rated significantly higher than formal attire for all these domains. So in terms of understanding if somebody's aptitude was high, so did they perceive them as very smart? They perceive somebody in scrubs to be smarter. Friendliness, somebody in scrubs was seen as more friendly. Empathy. Somebody in scrubs was seen as more having more empathy than I guess somebody in formal attire. Again, not to say that this is something that's set in stone. This was like one study. The other one was another study. I'm sure there's other studies showing otherwise, but these are just two studies that I found that did show that essentially patients aren't as concerned with your physical appearance as much as they are concerned on how you treat them and the information that you are providing. And so, what exactly does that mean to me and my experience? So, as you know, I did work as a nurse prior to going into med school. So before going into med school, I worked as a nurse for about 5 years and some change. And then I worked a little bit, yeah, so 5 years and some change. And then I'll probably work again. Oh, I keep touching my mic, which is probably going to make a weird sound. But yeah, I'm going to probably do my final contract as a nurse this summer. And then I think I'm planning to give up my license after this just because I'm trying to think and I'm just like, am I going to maintain a $400 license if I don't have the opportunity to even practice? So yeah, I might be giving up my license after this summer just because after that is clerkship and then residency. And I won't ever have a summer that's like longer than like 2 months after this. So it just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, anyways, what does this mean to me and my own experience? So when I first started and I was in nursing, I did think I needed to dress in a really stereotyped way, or like I needed to behave and appear in a really stereotyped way in order to receive respect from patients and just people in general. And a couple different instances kind of like changed my perspective on that. So okay, so one of my first experiences with this was when I was still a nursing student, and I was dressed, respectably in my nursing scrubs, like not too tight, anything like that. Like they were like the looser scrubs, like. um, and I had my hair like like I think I was still wearing braids, but I would always like tie it like neatly in a bun, and even sometimes I would wear a cap. And even then, I would have patients that would reject my care or say something specific. The typical thing was, oh, there's a smell and it makes me nauseous. So I'd prefer if somebody else could care for me. Yeah, like I got this a couple times. And the very first time it happened, actually, like I wasn't fully aware of what was going on, but I like when I clocked into what was happening, I was so sad. So when the patient first was like saying like there was a smell, I was thinking like literally in my mind at that moment, I was thinking the cocoa butter I'm wearing is too strong. I literally like like those like wet wipes that we used to like clean the patients. I took it, I went to the washroom, I tried to like scrub it everything off because I'm just like, okay, like I want to like be a good nurse, like I'm still a student, I want to make a good impression, like whatever. I don't, and that like is meant to like get rid of every smell, like it's odorless, da da da. I came back and there was still a smell. So yeah, so that was one experience, and it happened at least two other times on different units when I was still in that hospital when I finally did start to work as well. So I used to think like it's hard because it kind of gets to you. You're just like, is there a smell that I have? Is it like me? Like, you know what I mean? So like it kind of messes with you. Um, but yeah, I just continued to do my best as a nurse. I try not to let it bother me, even though it did. Another instance I had was outside of the hospital. And this would actually just happen to me like daily. So there was a convenience store next to me, not a convenience store, a drugstore near me where I lived. And I would go there before work, like dressed completely in my scrubs. So you could see that I was a nurse. And if they didn't know I was a nurse, then they would at least have to assume that I was a healthcare worker. It did not matter. I was still followed around in the drugstore. I still go to the same drugstore, and depending on what day, like still like, but I don't care. I don't dress in any typical way. If they want to perceive me in whatever way, I don't care because I've learned that it doesn't make a difference. But I would dress in my full nursing attire. I'd be followed around, and there was two occasions when I was stopped, like literally stopped before leaving, and this would be before I'd be going into my shift, and they opened my bag. And I have to say that it's not like I was being profiled by just any particular race. There was like, unfortunately, like one time it was by my own race, another time it was by another race. Um, but no matter what, it always hurts. It's just like no matter what I do, no matter how professional or respectable I look, these events are like unavoidable. So those kind of events just like piling up kind of change my perspective on what it means to be respectable and professional. And then on the flip side, maybe like a more positive thing, I used to be really scared to show my tattoos, or not scared. I just didn't want it to like to influence the kind of um, relationship I had with my patients. And so most of the time, I'd be wearing like long sleeves. Even if I was wearing short sleeves, I'd be like wearing um, like those like shirts that you wear underneath your scrubs that have like sleeves, just so that I would cover up my tattoos. I just didn't like if I'm just like if there's already so many issues in terms of me providing care, I just didn't want to add on one more thing for a patient to like feel like to not trust me, to not find me to be credible, you know? So yeah, I would wear long sleeves to work, and then slowly but surely, I'm just like, I don't think that makes a difference, and it didn't. I started wearing shorter shirts showing my arms, and nobody cared. So that's on the flip side of things as well. But that's just all of this to say that my experience has showed me that I don't think that there's any one particular way to be professional. I'm so sorry. I could feel my like throat like just like my voice not sounding the best, but I just really wanted to shoot this video because I'm just like this is an important topic, and it just like came to me and I'm just like, yes, I would like to talk about this. So yeah. So I'll go back to like this topic of being professional. I know that there's some people who are going to argue that like there's a time and place for everything. Like they like to separate who they are professionally from who they are in their personal lives. And my own like take on that is just like anything that is causing you to restrict yourself, you're going to want to find a way to rebel in some form. You're going to want to rebel. And I've seen this like maybe like politically or like in some beliefs, some like faiths where people will act a certain way in one environment and then feel like after they've left that environment like they can breathe and be themselves. And to me, it's just like, why would you put yourself in an environment where you don't feel like you can be yourself? And if I'm just thinking about the fact that as a healthcare provider, and especially as somebody who's going to be going into clerkship, I can be spending up to 26 hours in the hospital at a time or in the clinical setting at a time. Why would I ever want to feel like, you know, I'm going into an environment where only after 26 hours I can do, I can be myself? Like that is tiring and draining. And if I'm going to be somewhere for like 26 hours, I want to just bring at like my happiest self, even though I know I'm not going to be happy all the time. There's like serious situations. But why would I want to add those restrictions to myself to make it an even more tiring job? It just, to me, it just doesn't make sense. So rather than restricting myself and then binging essentially on my personality later, because that's what it feels like. It feels like, you're dieting for a second on your personality, getting home and then binging. I think that's too tiring. So that's my own take on separating your professional life from your work life. I think that it'll only make your personal self like more extreme in the things that you want to do rather than just mellowing out and just being yourself everywhere and figuring out how to integrate all the pieces of yourself when you go into your professional setting. But yeah, maybe my perspective on this might change as as I go into the clinical setting as a physician, but this is how I worked as well as a nurse. I had these butterfly clips going to work. I would, I'd wear my hair any which way. But of course there's going to be limitations, but I think you are the one that can figure out those limitations for yourself. Okay. So I'm going to refer to my paper again and see what I was going to say next. Right. And so I just wanted to go back on maybe like how I feel about something like a white coat, for instance, or like the appearance of a stethoscope. Like for me, these things are just ways to like assert dominance rather than actually trying to build a relationship with your patient. To me, these are ways of like I don't even know, like invoking paternalism, trying to make sure that the patient listens to you rather than trying to actually engage the patient in their health. So I'm very happy that within my school, like my current medical school, the value is like stethoscope is fine. Like I understand the stethoscope in terms of trying to like actually listen to your patient, but we didn't have a white coat ceremony when we started our medical school just because it like I think that the school doesn't like value the idea of having doctors put on a pedestal, having doctors seen as seen as being superior. I think that they do really value um, patient-centered care, and that was one of the reasons that I chose the school that I did. So I'm hoping that's something that I continue to see as I shadow. So far, when I shadow, like I have recognized that within the hospitals that I've gone to shadow at, like the doctors that I've gotten to shadow, a lot of them, they don't seem to be people who act as though they're like anything better than the patients that they're working with. In fact, that they really do display that they're serving their community. And so I'm trying to pick up on ways that they balance, you know, being professional with actually trying to be themselves. Before I move on, I was about to miss a really important factor in everything I've been talking about, which is intersectionality and representation. So, as of 2018, when the data on the um, Ontario Medical Association was published, um, Black physicians make up, I think it's about 2.7% of the Ontario workforce of physicians, whereas the overall population of Black people is about 4.2%. So there's definitely still some um, underrepresentation. Even though Black people themselves are still a minority, the amount of physicians is even less than that minority. And so when we're discussing respectability um, and professionalism, that's something that needs to be taken into account. For instance, earlier I talked about wearing a white coat as asserting dominance, which might be the case if there is um, a power differential between the physician and patient, but things might look a little bit different when we're considering various factors such as race. Sometimes the white coat is there to equal the playing field rather than asserting dominance. So I just wanted to make sure that I touched upon that before moving forward, just because I didn't want to ignore that it might be easier for maybe one of my colleagues to go by their first name and still maintain credibility, whereas I might still need the credentials of doctor to maintain credibility. So I didn't want to just glaze over that. So yeah, that is, I think I've talked a lot about my views on professionalism. Hopefully by this point you kind of understand how I view professionalism in healthcare. But I wanted to get back to talking about the TikToks. So the TikToks, the day in the lives. So overall, I don't think that these are bad things. I think that they actually have the potential to be good things. And I think they probably have had great influences as well. But we can't ignore the fact that they're not all the best. So, okay. So I think it's great for people to have some insight into what medicine looks like from like the perspective as like of a med student, of a doctor, of a nurse, like behind the scenes, that's part of what I try to offer as well through my vlogs, just so people don't feel like there's this enigma around medicine, like we're trying to hide something, everything like that. Just because already people are starting to trust medicine less because of I think that there's a whole mix of things which I understand with and I can empathize with. So I completely get it. And I think that maybe bringing people into what it looks like from behind can be a little bit more helpful in gaining some trust among the patients that we serve, and also give some perspective to people who are looking to come into the profession as well. However, I don't always think that the TikToks that are out there are the most appropriate. And I don't think that they are enabling or they are promoting trust between ourselves and the patients that we hope to serve or their families. I think a lot of the time they're even doing the opposite. So again, like, I have no problem, like, if you want to twerk. Do I think that you need to do that in the hospital on your shift? I just don't understand. I just personally don't understand. Me myself, if I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna have fun. Like, I don't even mind if people see that. Like, as long as they're understanding that I'm not in the environment where I'm also serving the patients. As far as you doing that in the patient environment, if you're doing that, especially in the patient's like room, like any of those TikToks, I think that that's automatic. You need discipline. Like you have to be disciplined by your college, whatever, because that's completely inappropriate. That's just at that point, like that's crossing boundaries. That is like confidentiality issues, privacy, safety. So we're not supposed to be doing harm to the patients. Like, how are you keeping this patient safe by like having their face in your TikTok? Like, I think all of those things are just absolute no-nos. But even if you are doing these things in your on your break and or whatever, just being in the hospital, like on the hospital, I just can't understand it. Like like maybe this is my own like toxic like respectability, like because I can't completely like explain why, but I just don't understand it. One thing that I will say is that I think there is a misconception. I think that there is a bit of a misunderstanding because sometimes when I do see people then making like counter TikToks about like, especially nurses, I think that people have like a really like vitriolic like response specifically to nurses doing these TikToks. But when people do make like response videos to that, like they'll be like, my mom was out here like sick or like, in critical condition and these nurses were out here doing it. That's not real. Like somebody's doing a TikTok while there's like a critical situation going on. No, maybe I haven't seen that and maybe it has happened, but I highly doubt it. Usually what's happening is, you know, healthcare professionals have this thing called a break. And on their breaks is when they're doing these things. But what I'm arguing is that even during your break, doing it on the hospital, like, or the clinical, in the clinical setting is not the best idea. But they're not, I don't ever think that people are doing it and then something is happening with their patients. And just to touch on that, another thing that I just wanted to quickly add in my little rant about is sometimes maybe patients and their family not necessarily recognizing that a healthcare provider is doing work when they're not like at the actual bedside. I know as a nurse myself, sometimes it would like people would be perceiving us to be like maybe lazy or not doing work because sometimes they even thought we were on our phones when we were actually on devices that were from work, or when we were on the computer, like sitting at the computer. I don't know if people fully appreciate that there's a lot of documenting that needs to happen, not just for ourselves and like saving ourselves, but literally for the patient safety. For instance, if I don't document quickly that I've given a patient a medication, I might forget, and somebody may go ahead and give that same patient the medication again. And like, so those kind of errors, we avoid them by making sure we document promptly. So sometimes it looks like we're doing nothing, even though like we're like actually trying to make sure that the patient is safe by doing our documentation like as promptly as possible. So just in case you ever do go into that environment and you're just like, oh, like look at these healthcare workers, they're so lazy, they're always on the computer. A lot of time there's a lot of documenting that needs to happen in order to keep the patient safe. Okay, that was my little side rant. But yeah, so overall, do I support these TikToks or not? I think there's room for good TikToks and bad TikToks, just the same way that there's room for good days, day in the life of me, and bad ones. I think that's why these conversations need to be had. We need to talk about what is professional versus what is respectable, and what is appropriate to do at work versus what is not. I don't ever want to put like a blanket on everything is or isn't. Like I think you can do TikToks. You can do TikToks at work and like show like what the environment looks like. And but like number one, you need to get consent from everybody that you're doing this with. If patients are going to be there, but I don't know, patients shouldn't be in it. There's no room for that. But like whoever's in those TikToks, you need to get their consent about that. And it should be in a way that is going to help in some way to build trust in the healthcare system, rather than I really don't know what those other TikToks are for. Yes, there's room for fun as well, but again, working in the hospital, why? So to conclude, I hope that this didn't like completely just like go all over the place, and like there was a bit like of structure to it, because this is my first like this would be more of like my corn tube type of video. I don't know. This is as close as I think I'm gonna get to it. But yeah, my overall like thoughts are that medicine's serious. So no matter what, we're going to, there's going to be times that we are extremely serious. Most of the time, it's very serious. So I think that there should be room for us to be a little bit unserious, to like laugh a little bit when we can. Even the patients appreciate this. Like I remember I used to like decorate the unit, and I had one patient like actually like say, I love that there's like dream catchers. I had done like dream catchers all over the unit. And she's just like, I love that there's dream catchers. I just think that people appreciate that kind of thing as well. So there's room for both. Yes, but we do have to keep in mind what professionalism looks like and how we are able to build trust between ourselves and the population that we hope to serve. But it's not an excuse to have barriers between us. There's going to be boundaries for sure, so that people understand what is personal to us. But again, I don't ever want that to be a barrier between myself and who I want to serve. So that is it. I don't think I said all the things that I wanted to say, because I did want to do this in one take. So I might like look back on this and have to add on. But if you feel like I didn't cover this topic in a way that you think is sufficient, I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic down below. If you agreed or disagreed, please give this video a like. Although if you disagreed, you're probably going to give this video a dislike. Yes, and please subscribe if you enjoyed my videos and want to see more videos like this. I'd also love to hear what other things that you want me to talk about, just because, yes, I have a lot of ideas, but I want to know what other people would like to hear as well. So thank you so much for watching my video, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.